computer.
Okay, recording in progress. Yes. Welcome everybody. Great to see you all. Thank you for coming to the 10,000th show and tell. And yeah, this is hosted by Jenny, but she couldn't make it tonight. So great to see everybody. And so for the show and tells to come, there's a sign-up sheet. So if you, of course, everyone is welcome to participate in any of the show and tells, either as a shower or a teller or just a watcher. And so the sign-up sheet, maybe Anita will put that in the chat. And if you would like to host a show and tell, we are definitely always looking for show and tell hosts. And all you got to do is come up with a theme that interests you, and then you can put that on the sheet, and then you get to present your work around that theme, and then leave it open for other folks to present. So always looking for show and tell hosts. Lots going on in the EBPCO world. The new show is up at the gallery, the Polaroid show, which is came out really great, looks fantastic. So I encourage you to get down and take a look at it. Let's see.
We're also accepting your Polaroids. If you'd like to contribute, if you're in the area, you can bring them by the gallery and put them up on the wall. Open call through.
Yeah, so there's an open Polaroid wall, so you can even just take a Polaroid and put it right up there.
You can also mail them to Underdog Film Lab if you're not near.
And Kent, I think, is in no less than 3 of the works that are in the gallery. So
wow,
very well represented.
I guess I can't leave Oakland.
Nope.
No.
You're
and then there's workshops coming up. So our first slate of workshops in a very long time. The framing workshop is sold out, but there's a studio lighting workshop that still has space available, taught by Nico, very experienced professional photographer, great background in lighting, and really knows his stuff, and is a great guy. So that still has spaces in it. And the darkroom is coming along. We're going to be putting out a call for volunteers to help with the actual construction. So you should be hearing something this week about that. Anita, what am I leaving out of all that?
I'm sure several things, but there's the forum that we have now where you can participate in. I'm just populating the chat with 1,000 links, apologies. But if you want to kind of have a conversation with folks that are also interested in the darkroom or anything photo related in the Bay Area, feel free to sign up for this forum. It's not part of Facebook, it's not part of Instagram, so it's kind of nice. It's just its own thing.
Right.
So go ahead and sign up.
Yeah, we had a nice interchange with someone who reached out, was curious about how to do a film swap with 120 film, and Jackie very kindly dove in. Jackie's the mistress of 120 film swaps and gave some guidelines about how to do it.
Anything with 120,
so
127, 120.
Yeah.
27, yeah. I don't know. I think Jenny is the queen of film swaps from what I saw at the exhibition.
Yeah. So that's a good place to reach out for help or advice, or to offer help, or just to interact with other photography folks. And as Anita said, it's not on one of the big social media platforms.
And there's an open call for our next exhibition. I think that's the last thing to pummel you guys with. So, sorry, you're visiting our website again to give you another link. We have an open call for our exhibition coming up in a couple months. The theme is Woman, is what it's called, and it's really open to interpretation. So I'm just going to give you this link. Take a look. Submissions are open until the 16th. There's a chance we'll push that forward a bit, but But yeah, definitely share that far and wide if you can. Anything else, do you think, Vince?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
Yeah, it's plenty for now. So yeah, thanks for joining us tonight. If Jenny were here, she would be saying the following. I will read for her. She asked me to read this verbatim, so I will do that. She says, "I'm really bummed that I cannot be here tonight. Thank you, Anita or Vince, for pretending to be me. I know what diptychs are, and I have loved them for as long as I can remember. However, I think I have only worked with them in my own artistic practice for a relatively short period of time. So in thinking about them more, I decided to do the quickest internet search on the planet, and I found this. I present a considerable summary of and quote from the website Art in Context about the purpose and evolution of the diptych. Quote, traditionally, diptychs were hinged together in a manner that permitted folding for the sake of protecting the artwork. The diptych then evolved into a piece of artwork that was commonly used to depict religious subjects or scenes in later centuries. Diptychs were also used to honor important figures and saints. Their functional hinges made them into altarpieces that were portable while still preventing any damage to the artwork within. In contrast, in modern art, we see a lot more structural variation. Artists frequently created two unrelated panels that were designed to hang beside one another, but were not physically connected. It was also common for artists to use a single panel to create an illusion of a diptych. This could be achieved by painting a line in the artwork to divide it or cutting two windows into a single mat. Unquote. It has been a challenge for me to put aside regular creative time since the world opened up in June of 2021 when the lockdown was officially over in California. I selected this theme because I knew it would force me to play around with image making in a manner that compelled me to work with photographs I had already made, but were just sitting around waiting for me so I could engage in this aforementioned structural variation. Now you can show my diptychs. For 7 are new for the show and tell, but from Polaroids that I made over the past 2 years, and some from over a decade ago. I played around with 1 or 2, and so there are versions of the same images. The final 2 are quite new, made in the 6 months from tintypes I made over the last 5 years.
All right, diptychs, here we go.
We do not have captions for these, I don't believe, so we can just enjoy
They
them.
have, yeah, they have titles, but
I like that one on the left, that is total classic.
like how with any diptychs, you're always facing that question of why are these two together? Like, what's the language I'm trying to learn between these two?
Mm.
What is 4 images? Is that a quadtic? This points out another aspect of diptychs is that the framing device becomes very important too, whereas with the individual images, you can sort of take or leave the frame, but when you're looking at a diptych, you're crossing the frame or moving around the frame, it becomes very important how the images are separated and how they're bounded. Yeah, I think that is the top. So go back to the beginning.
It's interesting. Feels like the outlier of the bunch.
Let's see if this is. Poles that dance.
Or wait,
And then
it sort of feels like the electricity is on the right, and the. I guess those are telephone poles, but still.
Yes.
I'm gonna try to match
I
them.
muted. The first two diptychs, I was thinking, oh, she's going like, kind of relating them with words, right? And the first one evokes electricity, this one kind of evokes up. But then she changes that and kind of goes for different relationships.
Kent, what is the relationship you see in this?
Oh, I saw that and I was like, up. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't see balloons like that and not think of that Pixar film with the house.
They're
But
also
that-
both
that would be-
column look. It's like a column.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I guess it was sort of the tonality of the two, the colors and the tonal relationship between the two that I was kind of exploring. And
The
not really.
window panes are similar.
Yeah.
Are these two and the following two the same but swapped? I'm just so curious.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Let's look at. Yeah, so this is why this is really a quadtic.
Either that or it really is showing us the importance of sequencing these.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does have a different feel.
Mhm. I couldn't tell you why off the top of my head, but I do prefer it's the first one, the dark and then light, but I'm 1000% sure why.
These make me think of that experience of being out in somewhere like Death Valley and that sense of disorientation that comes from like an empty landscape where there's not much going on. You're trying to find your place in it where you are.
I believe Jenny has joined us while on her job, so hi,
Oh.
Jenny. Listening in.
I love this one.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Yeah, this one makes me think of Moses in the burning bush.
Yeah. Right. The burnt bush
Yeah.
with that American flag there too. Is really,
Yeah.
I just popped in for a few minutes.
Hi, we're talking about you in absentia. I'm glad you're here.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
Really enjoying your work.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Really like this.
So this one, I was just playing around, with the dials. And I am always so into just exactly what picture I've taken without any kind of modifications. But then when I play around with it, sometimes I surprise myself and I really couldn't decide which one I liked. And I also was thinking of playing around with more extreme colors also, but I stuck with this one for now.
Well, here it actually looks like it's actually on fire.
Yeah.
In this, Jenny, I think you've shown us this one before.
I have, and basically all of these are from Polaroids. And I like pairing them as they are, like the actual Polaroids. But then I don't know, I kind of thought, well, what if I cropped out all the Polaroid borders that identify them as such, and how do they look that way? And I was kind of digging it, so. Um, and this one has actually been part of a triptych.
Mm. What is that,
And then
Jenny?
these last,
What's going on with this?
these are a pair of tintypes. Sorry, I have really bad reception here, so I don't know if I'm cutting out.
We can hear most of what you're saying.
Okay, cool. So I make a lot of still life tintypes of foods and objects, and I often will make multiples of the same identical thing, sometimes on different colored plates, not really knowing exactly what I'm gonna do with them in the end. And so this is oh my God, I'm forgetting the name. It's a kind of a melon. It's pretty large,
Oh,
and
Yeah, it looks like a something.
you know, I wander around. Sorry, say again,
Oh,
Anita?
sorry, I talked over you, but it looks like a husk of something. Like it looks sort of like it's not solid.
yeah. I was thinking it looked kind of metallic.
Yeah.
And didn't realize that it was organic. It looks inorganic.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it kind of looks like a fingerprint sometimes. Sometimes there's a very planetary feeling about it. And I I took this a couple of years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Didn't know what I was going to do with it. And just loved how they paired out together.
Yeah.
Especially like with tintypes. I've shown another tintype pairing with a black and a white plate. And you really see how a tintype is a negative. But when you see it against a dark background, like the black metal on the right, it becomes a positive image. And then with a light background, the white one on the left, you see a negative image. But then seeing those together is interesting. Like that's one element. And then the other element is the fact that, what is it? Like, what is this? You know, the texture is really interesting. It's kind of confusing because you think you know what it is, but you don't. But it's just, I don't know, it keeps you. I feel like it can, I don't know, it can be anything.
Yeah. To me, it looks so fleshy.
Yeah, that's the fingerprint.
Yeah.
And then this too, this one's very hard to photograph, but this is another pairing of tintypes that I put together recently. And again, I made many versions, like the exact version, but on different plates. And of course, with tintypes, you can't make an exact duplicate because everything is handmade. The one on the right is actually a reflective blue plate. So that is what makes it very hard to photograph. But in any event, yeah, I just played around with it, and I call this one Dueling Senecio, which is the Latin name for the plant that it is. It's the chain of pearls that you may have seen hanging down, but then when you rotate them, they become something different.
How do you do a tintype on? I'm gonna say that's blue, but I'm colorblind. It could be purple.
It's blue.
I always think of it as just black and white.
Yeah. So it's exactly the same process. You just use a different color metal plate.
Oh.
So I buy different colors of plates. Some of them are reflective and some of them are flat. So the one on the left, the black one, is flat. I mean, they're all reflective because they're metal. Kind of like a glossy, print. But the one on the right is also reflective. It's like a mirrory blue. So those ones can be quite spectacular, but are impossible to photograph, so that you can kind of really feel them.
Yeah. This is really gorgeous. I love this.
Thank
I
you.
love what you've done with like meta composition here. You know, how like the two of them
Mhm.
together form a composition.
Yeah, and like I totally didn't like I really didn't know what I was just gonna do something kind of boring and put them next to each other, you know, straight up and down. And I just started playing around and was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm too close to this. I need more distance and not think about it so much as how I shot it. And instead think about it as how does it look like pretend I'm not me when I put it together. Try to sever that relationship. And I made these tintypes probably in 2018 or 2019 maybe. So I've had them for a while.
That's the end there, right? Well, since we have the artist with us, any other questions for Jenny?
Yes.
about-
Well, I do have to go in a second here, but I'm glad I was able to pop on for.
I'm imagining this giant pot of, pastas boiling away.
I think we just got a big platter of sushi.
Ah,
Chow down. We're cleaning up now. We're actually on that big building on Yerba Buena Island that you can see when you're crossing the Bay Bridge on the
Oh,
way into the
wow.
city.
oh my God. Amazing.
They're trying to sell units and we're giving them appetizers. Yeah, but any questions about anything? Alrighty.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah. Yes.
We have Jackie J. Golding next, if you would like to share, Jackie.
Okay.
Just for clarity's sake, I was going to chat at you, but I might as well ask. Do you prefer JM or Jackie when we're talking about?
Oh, it's okay either way. I was going to try to change my display name, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. Sometimes it seems like there's an option to do it and sometimes not.
All right, I will try and default to JM, but please.
Either way is
share
fine.
when you're ready.
Yeah, okay, so shall I start sharing my screen?
Should be able to.
Okay. Here we go. All right, so this is a little bit of a preview of cameraless photography next month, but none of the same images, or at least that's the plan. That's how I have it set up so far. And I didn't start out to make diptychs, actually, not consciously. But this was, I was starting to make some lumen prints, and this was the first one I made, except it turned out it was two of them. I didn't know you could do this, but I had, accidentally or unconsciously or whatever, taken two pieces of paper out of the package without knowing it and exposed them. And I got this, and I was like,
Wait, so there was one on top of the other. They were kind of stuck together.
yeah, the two pieces of paper were kind of stuck
Wow.
together, so I didn't realize there were two. And I just put the
Oh my God.
plant on top and put the glass on it and exposed away. And then when I went to take it in, it was like, oh, I have two here.
That's
And I think my
gorgeous.
unconscious just knew what it was doing.
For the
So
folks, for the
is the
folks who might not be aware, could you just super briefly explain what a lumen print is?
Okay, so thank you. A lumen print is when you take silver gelatin paper and you make typically a photogram with it. So you put an object on it and you put it out in the sun for a long time. So, some of these are, excuse me, some of these have been exposed for, I think the shortest might be a little bit under an hour. Some of them, 4 or 5 hours.
Is the color related to how long you've left it out?
The color is very unpredictable. It can be related to how long you leave it out, what season it is, what time of day it is, what kind of paper you're using. And you'll see later, I've also used some additives that affect color as well. So it's a pretty unpredictable process, but that's one thing I love about it. I mean, it's like for me, I mean, I do a lot of like plastic camera and pinhole photography. And so I love that whole aspect of it. I feel like that lets the whole unconscious thing come out. As I was thinking about titles for the diptychs that I was making, starting with this, struck me as being kind of hidden selves, right? So there was the self that was on top, you know, exposed to the sun, and then there was the one underneath that was at least initially hidden. And so I started out continuing in this vein with the same paper, made this one, and a few others, which I'm not going to show you because I really was trying to kind of pare them down. I've been doing this for almost a year and just making a lot of them. But I'm really glad to get to present today because I have a very specific diptych question that I'm going to ask that I'm interested in people's feedback about. So while I was making these, sorry, is there a question?
I have a question, Jackie. This is Jenny, or Jam.
It's okay.
How, and maybe you already said this and I missed it. How long are your exposures on, like, for example, this one here?
I couldn't tell you offhand on this one here, but I do have notes. But they vary from a little under an hour to 5-6 hours.
Okay.
Sometimes it gets dark and I'm busy doing something else.
Yeah.
Okay, gotta go take that one in.
Can I ask you a quick question? Is it like a solagram where you wash the print afterwards, or do you just leave it in the sun and then it's done?
There's no development. Some people fix them because they do fade if you don't fix them. But if you fix them, that changes the colors.
Okay, so these were just left in the sun on this paper, and this is what you got.
These were just left in the sun and then scanned immediately afterward.
Oh, okay.
The prints themselves don't, I mean, I'm
And
being
then
honest,
that's
they
it,
don't,
right?
sorry, what?
I'm so sorry. So you don't fix them, you scan them immediately and then they fade. Do they completely disappear?
I haven't seen them disappear yet. What I've been doing is just like putting them away in a relatively dark place. I've been getting a little better now that I'm using up packages of paper. I'm using little inserts from those to store them.
Yeah.
But my assumption is that my scan is it. And
yeah,
so I kind of see these lumen prints as being, and I didn't mean to get too much into lumen prints today, but as being sort of like a negative, and then my scan and processing is sort of like the print, although obviously it's not a print yet, but it can be printed, and I'm working very hard on learning about that. It's taking more than I anticipated. But just, I mean, to be totally honest, if you saw the print itself, it wouldn't look exactly like this because I do adjust the lighting and dodge and burn because I want them to look like I want them to look like, not necessarily what my scanner's auto exposure wants them to look like. So I feel like, I give myself permission to do that, even though I've been told that I'm not a proper analog purist because of that. I'm like, okay.
You get to do whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's my assumption. So, thank you for that.
What's so cool about this, I think, because I experimented with lumen.
You're the boss of you.
But like there's always, it's about subtle layering, right? Like when you really look at it, you actually see, because it's all squished and the light is, going through those petals for so long, you see like how they're layered on top of each other. And then like to add this other layer of layering, it's just a really kind of pulls at the brain in a really neat way.
Yes, it does. Anyway, so as I'm making, I'm going to kind of prepare you for the next bunch because they're they look different from these. As I'm making these, I'm also experimenting with other ways of making lumen prints and other kind of visual themes. And after several months of that, I found all the kind of processes, all the visual themes I was working with kind of coming together in this sort of next bunch of diptychs. And so let me show you some of those. So there's this, for example. So here you see the use of some additives, obviously in the upper one, but some of those come through in the lower one as well. And so again, I'm kind of thinking about these as kind of, I mean, this set feels to me more like there's some wholeness in it of like an inner and outer self, like combined. And I think, and that becomes a basis for a question for me. Like with this one, I'm good with both of the images, but there are some where I'd like one of them a lot more than the other. And I'm not sure whether I want to display the pair as a pair, or whether I should just kind of ignore one of them for the sake of, presenting something that I think is better work. Or keep both of them, because sometimes, the inner self isn't pretty, but it's real. So
I love them together. I think
agree.
that they're beautiful.
Yeah, I was gonna
thank
say
you
so.
very much.
And it's interesting you said inner and outer self, because the one on the right, the blue one, almost looks like a skeleton, a negative of the one on the left. So you can almost see the inner self and then the fleshed outer self. Yeah, that's what it looks
Cool way to see it. Yeah. And this paper turns out to go blue on the blue or mostly blue on the lower sheets, but not all papers do that. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Super. So I think I know what you're talking about or feeling, Jam. I love them both.
Thank you.
The pairing definitely has a different feeling to me than the other one, and I think they could easily stand alone, and with only seeing this pair, it's hard to tell. But is your desire or intention with this to have only diptychs, or is this a body of work that could have individual images and also diptychs?
That's a really good question. And in fact, I would say the body of work includes individual images as well.
Yeah.
Which were made as individual images. And again, with this one, I'm good with the pairing, but there's at least one that I'll show you as we go on where I'm not so sure. So I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I feel like there's like 4 or 5 kind of visual themes that I've been working with that kind of come together in this bunch of diptychs. And I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is I don't know whether some of the diptychs belong in this particular theme where they've all where all the themes have come together, or in one of the earlier ones where it's excuse me, where it's really only, or it's a single image. Because anyway, so like this one I'm happy with as a diptych. I actually kind of like.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Thank you. This one, on the other hand, I'm not so sure.
These are fascinating, and it just makes me want to have an in-person show and tell, because I wanted to see these.
Yeah, well, again, I am working on printing these, and it is so much more complicated than I realized.
I really want to see a figure in that right hand one, and it's funny because your work is not exactly similar, I guess, but it is and I know that Rebecca's going to be showing, but Rebecca, it reminds me some of your work. Like it makes me want to see a face and kind of like a stretched out version of a person. But yeah, I love it actually. I can see like white hair and eyes and a hand.
I can see white hair, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's fascinating. But yeah, I honestly don't know like personally about diptych or not diptych because it's not as easily matched as the first of these three.
Yeah.
And also another question is like, you know, are the diptychs presented within one frame or are they paired together in individual frames?
I guess the way I imagined it was that they'd be in a single frame.
Mm-hmm.
That I you know, kind of set them up as a single, you know, digital document and print it that way. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
When I look at these, my feeling as I look at them is that the one on the right, the one with the white, is just got so much energy and it's fighting to get out, which makes me, if I were looking at them, I'd want to separate them. I don't want these two together in my way of looking at the two. All the others have worked well for me as diptychs. These to me want to be separate.
Good to know.
I think it's sometimes an issue of harmony and variety. You know, if there's too much variety, like what somebody was just saying about these, then maybe they should be separate, you know, separate. If there's too much harmony, maybe they don't go together either. So I think it's that fine line between harmony and variety. And also it's spacing, you know, how much space between them. Because I had that same question, how are they going to be displayed, you know, close together or further apart? And if there's ones that maybe you're not quite sure if they go together, maybe having a little bit more harmony between them, picking up like some of that blue color from the right side, the deeper blue, adding a little bit of that to the left side. You know, sometimes it's just a matter of tweaking the colors a tiny bit, and then they work perfectly. But I think all your work is beautiful. I mean, they're all lovely. So just the thought about the harmony and variety thing.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I mean, I think that's something that I've had difficulty with in terms of putting portfolios together, is like, you know, how much coherence or I forget if that's the right word. There's another word for it, you know, is how much cohesiveness should there be? Because, you know, it's supposed to be cohesive, but how much is too much? I don't always know. I feel pretty good about that aspect of it, sort of more generally with this. It's just this diptych thing that I'm not so sure about. Anyway, let's see. A few more, I think. Ooh.
So this is
So all of these are that sandwiched paper.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask the same thing. That's amazing.
Wow.
Yep.
And you already said this, but I just want to make sure I understand these later ones you have kind of played around with more after the scan.
It's not that I've played around with them more after the scan. It's just that I've used additives in the making. So I'm not sure if I used any in this one, but for example, in this, just from looking at it, I can see that I sprinkled some dried tea leaves in there.
Got it.
Which affected the color, and it I don't know, ended up looking a little sparkly.
They're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I learned a lot from a friend who does these. Yeah, I've been making them. These are made wet in a tray, and so that adds more, you know, variability to them. The moisture affects what the exposures look like.
I think that first one works so well as a diptych. It reminds me of like two different kinds of 19th century photography. Like on the one hand, the kind of botanical, you know, stuff that names are escaping me right now. And then on the left hand, it almost reminds me of like the aura photography that the spiritualists were doing. And why I think that works so well is you get different pieces of information from each one. On like, I think it was on the left, you could actually see the veins and the leaves a bit better than the one on the right. Well, the one on the right had a bit more clarity. So your brain kind of pulls them together and gets different things from them that makes it a nice whole. So I think that's why that one's so successful. And maybe why the questions about these is that, like, does it make the brain do that same kind of like additive meaning, or does, as someone else pointed out, is it, you know, you have a lot of chaos and it doesn't necessarily pull together in that same way.
Yeah, I think it's an important question. That's the last one. So one of the things I was doing with these is I was putting the flowers in like bottles and jars and stuff. And I decided to experiment with brown bottles because I thought, you know, maybe they'd like hold back a little more light and they'd show up better and stuff. And so I was using this bottle from vanilla extract. And suddenly, I mean, I had been, you know, using these for a while. Suddenly the text started showing up on the prints. And I was like, this is so cool. It's like when you get backing paper text on a negative. And so I kind of like that. Kind of random, but I like it.
These are beautiful.
Yeah, they're just beautiful.
You can probably tell this is the same paper as that one, the first one of this subset.
Yeah, and this one has that same thing where I think it makes a really nice diptych. Where they're just contrasting enough.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's true. They're more kind of visually coherent with each other than some of these.
Right.
It's that ghostly after image or skeleton.
Yeah, right. They have a different version of the same thing feel, whereas some of the others were like just became wildly different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. And just to play devil's advocate for a moment, sometimes what we find inside is totally different than what we might expect from the outside.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Whether it's
Yeah.
ourselves or other people, you know.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah.
Thank you so much for these. It's beautiful.
Jackie, will you teach a class on how to do this?
sure. I mean,
I would love to learn. These are great.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And that, you know, it's totally not rocket science.
You learn in an afternoon. That'd be perfect.
Yeah. Oh, less than that. But well, yeah, you'll need an afternoon to
Yeah.
expose them, but otherwise, yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, no, it's the digital processing to make them print how you want. That's apparently rocket science. I'm again still trying to wrap my brain around that.
You could see that.
It's just to make them look like what I'm seeing on the screen. Turns out to be a lot more complicated than I realized, even though I've, you know, printed from negatives before.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thanks everyone for your insightful comments.
It would be lovely to see those in person. We have up next Maria Budner.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Not going to the right thing. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just went to the wrong place.
I can see individual. I
Whoa.
can see them all as a team.
Yeah. Hold on, that just went to the wrong, it jumped from where, this is where I need to be. Okay, and tab. Okay. So I kind of over time have done a lot of diptychs, and I didn't really know how many we were supposed to show. So I'll go through them very quickly, and then I'll tell you what I'm doing. Is that okay?
Sure, and I'm still
do it
seeing
that
in this file, so just in case you're
What are you seeing?
a range of images. So I'm not sure if you're trying to show
Yeah.
something.
Right. No, I will now.
There you
Now
go.
I am.
Perfect.
Okay. So this is just an old diptych that I did that's more traditional diptych. It's poppy flower and then the poppy seeds. Again, traditional diptych of a window. Then this was starting to play with more what I've been playing with diptychs, which is the idea of the same thing in reverse. That's another one. And then, okay, why is that not moving? Oh, gee. Okay. Okay, there we are again. I've been finding myself playing a lot with the concept of the same image done differently. Yeah. And a lot with the black and whites that are the opposites of. And it's funny, early on when Anita was reading the reason that when diptychs started and they were religious prints, I realized that a lot of what I'm doing with these is kind of that Taoist idea, the Taoist idea of the same thing in reverse, comparing the black and the white and seeing it in both ways. So. Yeah, I've just been fascinated with that idea, that concept of pairing an image with itself. And then this is a little bit different because this is the two images melded together, whereas before it's like really a diptych. This is a diptych smashed together. And then I figured diptych, triptych, why not? So I threw in a few triptychs that I've been doing. But again, that idea of like the same image done differently, which is just what I've been more fascinated with. This is more traditional triptych. Speaking of trip, it was images taken from a car on a car trip. But then this is the same image done differently, just presented differently, like literally turned around.
Oh, that's so graceful.
Oh, thank you. And then this is virtually the same image, but not. And this is, again, the concept of the same image done differently, different ways of seeing the same thing, which, yeah. And this is also, I don't know if you can see it, but it's three images. One is larger than the other two. And I think that, okay, then this is again one of those smushed images, the same image 3 times and smushed together. Yeah, okay, then this is one more thing I was doing was what I was saying before of like reversing images and putting them up against each other, but trying it a little differently. Yeah, so that's where we are with those. Now I'm finally at the end. So, okay, so going back, I don't know if there's any in particular that people want to talk about, or the particular groupings, or if I should go through them faster, slower, whatever.
I want to see them again.
Okay.
Maria, we were talking before about how images are linked together, might be through tonality, through shapes, or through a concept. And then I feel like time is the linking between these, that, the images on the right feel to me more like seeds. And then the flowers open. I don't even know if these are the same species, but that's what
it is, the same. Yeah, I like that. I like that. And that's maybe something I want to explore more, is that sense of time. It's not what I did in a lot of the others. I was dealing more with that sense of something meeting itself, facing itself. This is neither one nor the other, but but those black and whites where they were facing each other, dealing with that whole issue of coming up against the shadow side. In fact, I called them shadow sides. Yeah. But this is just a more traditional, this is literally the same window pieces of it. And yeah, this is the same image, but with two different, with a filter put on it, black, white, and white, black.
I see a window in that one too,
Mm.
at least on the left.
You see a window, is what you're saying?
Yeah, because it's like the circles are like windows in the forest.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it's almost like one is looking in at something and the other is blotting out something,
Yeah.
but it's the same image.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are all part of, these now start part of a set.
These ones are so lovely. I mean, there's so much geometry going on, and I think that just adds beautifully to them.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's something about like the light maybe also that makes it feel like very kind of still in a very beautiful kind of resonant way.
I think these are the ones where oh yeah, where the geometry is kind of goes across the whole thing are particularly strong.
You mean
So
like these kind, that one?
yeah, it really, it just looks like a design.
Oh, okay.
It's
Yeah.
almost non-objective.
Right.
Objective.
And this gets a little different.
No, I think
I love that.
this
I
is
love
one of the
that
strongest
last
ones
one too.
because again, like you have this kind of webbing that comes together, which is it's really nice.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this one as well. You've
Yeah.
got that chevron thing. It's very kind of like Art Deco.
Yeah. And it just really makes you see, like, just seeing the negative image, it kind of abstracts what everything is, of course, but it just gives you a different way of looking at the same thing, and you can notice more details, but also it just is, I don't know, it keeps my eyes going around and around, and I love it.
Yeah. I just found myself so, I don't know why, but so really needing to deal with the opposites, facing the opposite, dealing with the opposite. Do you find this effective, or is it better to have it separate?
I see them very differently. They're not even comparable, personally.
Yeah.
And I like them both, but they're very different.
Yeah, they are. They are. Yeah.
A different story.
Yeah.
And even though they're opposites, the symmetry is very balancing.
Yeah, they are a different story. That's true. That's true. And then this is just that it was mentioned earlier in the definition of diptychs, you know, just dividing up a picture, and it comes across quite different in the black and white and in the color. But that's pretty simplistic. And this, yeah, this is again just playing with the different ways of looking at the same thing. This is kind of, I guess, an outlier to what I've been doing. Should I go through the rest, or is that?
I have a question about this image.
Mhm.
Is this the same image that you've recropped,
No.
or you've
Yeah.
taken 3 different shots?
Yeah, it's 3 different shots because as the water was moving, the shadows were moving. So it's taken from the exact same place. It's just 3 different shots taken from the same place within seconds of each other.
So you have the factor of time linking.
Yeah,
it as well.
right. Yeah. There you go. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
nice
sorry.
film strip quality to it.
To this one, yeah. Right.
Yeah, if you just want to slowly scroll through the rest and we can.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Oh, just if you want to slowly scroll through the rest and then we can, if anyone
Sure.
has any thoughts.
Sure.
Where did you take this one? I'm just curious. The post with
This
the-
one, this is in Oakland, in the Chinatown area, very close to the gallery.
I'm familiar. I think that's why.
Yeah. It's the same shot, just the center one is larger, cropped larger.
It's interesting to think about your architectural works and this piece too, like the lines and the ends are flipped.
Yeah, a lot of flipping.
Flip out.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'm sure everybody kind of sees in their own work, like things that they keep wanting to do over and over, dealing with something. So this is another one of those meshed. It's the same image 3 times, but it's then put together. Yeah, and this was something else I was doing a while back, so I thought I'd throw it in. Again, same image flipped, but then, throwing it into I don't know what you call 4 things together.
They have a real graphic designer's sensibility. And
Yeah, this one is a little different because it's 4 separate shots, but it's taken at the same place. It's the same spot with people walking through it differently.
Oh, I love this. I think this is one of my faves.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a whole nother thing. I can, develop that more. And then this one again is that flipping. So that's it. That is the grouping. Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Yay.
yeah.
Next we have Kent Hall.
Oh. Well, hey everybody. It's nice to be amongst the EBPCO friends. For those of you who aren't aware, we moved to Seattle in the beginning of December. And so I have not been doing a lot of photography because I've been just getting things ready around here. But I saw you were doing Diptychs, and I thought, well, Diptychs are great because I do like all of these little books. And what are books? The series of Diptychs. But then it's like, actually, that's not true. Because when you do a book, you're considering like a whole sequence, right? So I'm going to show one old thing and then just some kind of snapshotty work that just some shoddy work. And of course, I have way too many windows open.
Welcome to my world.
Hold on, I'm so sorry. Preview just disappeared. Okay. It's there. So there it is. All right. So this is an example of what I'm talking about. So this is some photos I'd taken for a little book I did called a driving song. And this is how I had them paired together as a diptych, and that I quite liked. But then for the actual book, they ended up on completely opposite ends of the narrative, and it just made me think that yeah, there really is a difference. There's something different that happens when you're just pairing images together in a long sequence versus a short one. So these are some what I'm going through next. I got this cheap little camera called the Canon Ivy Click. It's an instant camera of sorts that prints on these tiny little things. They're printed. It's not an actual photographic negative like in a Polaroid. It's printed out not with ink, but pressure on a 3-layer substrate that activates like different colors. And then they have little stickers on the back too. So it's like for kids to, you know, take pictures at parties and stick them in something. But I kind of love that it feels really disposable. And unlike Polaroid or Instax, which has this sense of being so nostalgic or, you know, artsy or whatever, like this thing with a sticker on the back that you just like put in a book has the exact level of attention that I can put towards photography right now. So I've started doing some diptychs in my neighborhood, which is in a lot of ways a neighborhood that's still kind of like broken down. It used to be called Heroin Hill back in the 80s and 90s, and it's gotten a little bit you know, fancier, but you still have a lot of these like just wonderful broken down homes around here. And I've naturally just been putting them together in mostly in diptychs, but also some triptychs. And I should point out, I've also been reading a lot of 1940s crime novels lately, like Patricia Highsmith and like Laura and stuff. And so just trying to get a sense of disquiet. This is what happens when you use this camera. There comes with these little blue sheets that calibrate the printer. And if you don't run them through, you get these vertical grains, which are kind of fun. So so yeah, this has just been kind of trying to get like away from the books that I usually do, which are like, you know, 12 to 16 photos to tell a story, and just kind of trying to get at something that's a little bit more implied with just 2. So this is all I got today, but I kind of wanted to drop in.
This one has such a different tone. Did that just come off that way, or is there anything you did?
Oh yeah, so this is a completely different process. So this I did back when I was in Oakland.
Oh, okay.
And this is using expired instant slide film that Polaroid made back in the 80s for people to do like presentations. And so it's incredibly imperfect. And then I use an old Vivitar slide printer to print the slide from the instant slide film onto Instax wide. So you have like multiple layers of weird chemical stuff happening. So
okay.
Yeah, so it's weird. Like the colors in this, I'm colorblind, so it's hard for me to tell. But there's a weird cast, I think, on these.
Very blue. They're very blue. Yeah.
Blue, my arch nemesis.
And I like this one a lot because of the offset quality, that they're not exactly evenly next to one another. I think that makes it even more exciting. I mean, it's still a diptych, but the spacing is very interesting. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, if you go through, I limited this to just diptychs, but if you go through the notebook that I have, some pages will just have a single photo up here. Some will actually have like a panorama of like maybe 4 or 5 photos. So it's made so that when you're going through it, there's kind of some visual excitement to it in that way. I think also too, like with this, like, the brain always wants to construct the meaning that's in between two things. And because this is the same house, if I put them right next to each other, you'd probably be kind of trying to line it up a bit too much, figure out what's like not,
Mhm. Mm.
Or do folks ever challenge you about taking photos of their house or anything? I've had that happen to me, so which is why I ask. But
I kind of expect that around here because there are some places that honestly it looks like people have been like shut in and like never come out. This house on the right I'm like kind of really obsessed with, and it always just looks shut down. But so far not. I wave to people around the neighborhood as I'm out taking photos, just so they know the guy in the cowboy hat is at least a friendly creeper.
These two work so well together. I love the shadow of the tree and the branches on the right, as opposed to the whole mess of branches on the left. No shadows or nothing, just tree. They just complement each other so well.
Thank you. Yeah, this one kind of made me the happiest, even though I wasn't thinking diptychs at the time.
I find the lean in the compositions to be really curious too.
Yeah, it could be this camera, and it's just got this like shitty little viewfinder, and I don't even know like if everything's lined up. I got it on eBay. So like I try to line things up, but this is a little canted, but yeah, it kind of brings like that a little bit of imbalance to it that I liked. So I'm trying to decide if I'm going to go on with this sort of like trying to find these sort of little narratives or like go back to books. But
I feel like the branches are kind of crossing from one image to the other. I like that.
Yeah, I think that that's that cool thing about diptychs. I wanted to mention this during Jenny's too, where she had the rounded buildings, right? And we know it's the same, right? And we know they're not going to come together, but our brain really wants to make it so because we know it's there. And then this is kind of the opposite, right? Where these aren't next to each other at all, but like there's a part of it, your brain, that's telling you like this branch comes through, it's connected, and and it's not. So anyway, well, thank you, everybody.
thank you for sharing. Have last up Rebecca Stees.
Yeah. Okay. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. 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 Whoops. Here we go. I guess as an intro, I'll say that I made these in the last 24 hours. I hadn't been thinking about diptychs before, but I liked Jenny's description of, hey, you want to play with it. So I'm really was interested in some of the concepts, intentions of diptychs.
So much to absorb.
That's funny. How do I? Thank you.
Before we even talk about the diptychs, I haven't seen your work before. I'd like to know how they're composed, like all these faces and set into faces. Like what's your process even on just a single image?
Oh, okay. I created them on my iPad. I start with selfies. Sometimes the original photos, I might do some kind of app to them. But basically, it's just like having two pieces of paper on top of each other, and I erase one, like I erase the top one to show parts of the bottom one. So I was trying to do double diptych. So each single image is two photos, one erased into the other.
Okay.
And the other thing that I tried that's a little different for me is I tried using this app on iColorama that is called Toon, Toon, which in this image I'm showing right now, see how the face, I mean, even though that's like one heck of jaw right there, that's is me, but looking like Lisa Marie Presley a bit. You know how it's like pretty, like the eyes are pretty.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was playing with, and then the one next to it is also this Toon app that you could see how it's making it a little bit more stylized.
Yeah.
So that's how I made them, and then they're just sitting here in Google Slides. And I do a lot, I like to do a little flipping. So when I put them into next to each other, sometimes I flip the image just to make the so they're like either facing each other or looking away, you know, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I like all these nested faces and all the distortion. I think it works well with the diptych because again, your brain is trying to kind of compare the two, like particularly the ones where they're fairly close to one another, but not but you could still almost confuse them for being the same.
Yeah.
Well, Rebecca, I love these. To me, they're like psychological studies. I was taking notes, you know, to be able to say what I was thinking. They are emotional and evocative and psychological, and it's like the many different faces that we put on, maybe even from minute to minute or day to day. I think they are really strong pieces. They're wonderful. Keep doing them.
Oh, thanks.
Really like this
Like
one.
that one.
Yeah.
Is so particularly for the diptych, like it's I think it's really powerful and appears very animated.
Yeah, what do you find powerful about it?
Well, I mean, that sense that, I mean, we really don't know what this person seems to be. On one hand, maybe presenting a very friendly face, but then is perhaps laughing at us from behind. You know, that's sort of my interpretation, and having it doubled in that way and makes it almost more I don't know if it's your intention, but makes it almost more maniacal, a little like anxiety provoking, to have that sense of movement as if they're two stills from a film.
Yeah, and my interpretation is that somebody maybe yelling in the background, not laughing. So it's hard. Yeah, either way, it's disquieting.
Yeah. It seemed to me as you went through them that the last three had a different feeling to the rest of them. They started to get more but moving further away from understanding the connection with the face. I mean, you still see a face, but it's more, what's the word? Surreal than the others, maybe. And that they actually seemed more powerful to me. Can you go through 8, 9, and 10?
Oh, yeah. All right, here we go. Here's 8.
Yeah. Yeah. This one, the face on the right, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's a really powerful series as it gets, it seems like it was progressing as it got further and further away from an obvious normal face. Yeah, it just got even more powerful.
Yeah, I have several kind of doubles, like this 8 and 9 obviously are similar, you know, more similar color style. But this one, which we just looked at, is also the same image as this one. I mean, the top image, the bottom images are different, but the top images are the same of both this and this.
If you had to write an artist statement for it, what would you say? What are you wanting us to know?
Well, I find it more interesting to hear like what I don't know that I'm trying to teach something or necessarily like tell a story, but I was playing with the just what's the all the mechanics of how two things, how we compare. Okay, do I want the green genes or the blue genes? Is this plant healthier? Should I buy this house plant or this house plant? There's like the comparison thing. And then there's also like, which one seems true? Which one seems false? Which is better? Which is worse? Which is pretty? Which is scary? Am I looking at the pattern recognition? Am I thinking, does something become stronger if I see it double? Or deja vu? I mean, I have like a lot of, I think we've kind of said all these things just related to diptychs. But I guess in some of my other work, I have been playing with them. I don't know if I would call these particularly self-portraits, but I'm very interested in characters and stories.
These kind of gives me a sense of like kind of like Warhol meets like Francis Bacon, and there's like a real thing of like the self that we put on versus you know the self that's inside. And I think particularly because you're using those apps that that distort and idealize in some sense, and then like ripping those things away.
Yeah, I think I'm very interested in like ugly, pretty. And this one even more so because this app that makes you look pretty, but using the pretty app in kind of an ugly way was fun. So Warhol, you mean because he did like editions and printmaking and also religious iconography, Catholic iconography, or do you mean like his pictures of like the electric chair things?
I was kind of thinking, like particularly when he did like his Marilyns and his Liz's, there was such a sense of like the silkscreen ink being like makeup, right? And it's like almost, it's not a face anymore. So like when you have the eyebrows that are cut out, like his eyebrows on his were kind of like that too. It's just like this pure thing of ink or paint that's no longer, it's no longer an eyebrow. So in that same sense that, you know, he was really into playing with ideas of presentation, and, you know, of course he was like really into like, you know, drag and movie stars, so that there was always just this like hyper real quality. And then of course the bacon part, you know, is like all this like, you know, distortion.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I hadn't thought about the star maker aspect. Just making people iconoclastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Francis Bacon, because it's well, that's I find that to be a compliment. Like, so it's gruesome and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah. And, you know, he had a real sense of just like wanting to just distort and treat the body in very you know, and not always like super complimentary ways, you know.
And I mean, would you say his content is like pain or power?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe not so much in his intention. It's just more kind of like this the sort of feeling I get from like the swirls and the kind of like pulls of the paint, and like just the treatment of flesh, I think is
Yeah.
probably a lot what calls to mind. But also too, like in his like, you know, it's like Pope, you know, paintings, there's like these grimaces, you know, that are
Oh, well, yeah, very intense feeling.
yeah.
Yeah. This one is the exact same nose eye. It's funny how it's like, I don't know what, a little koala in one.
On the left hand side looks like an arm and a hand-ish. Is that a cutout that you created, or was that something you pulled from somewhere else?
Well, it's I did do some like kind of extra drawing in it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a, you know, it's just, yeah. I did some extra drawing.
In this one, it's really, it really grabs me how the real eye behind, on the right side, is peeking out with that facial expression. That's real powerful to me in this one.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm wondering what you guys think about the relationships between the people. So this one, they're, you know, kind of like, does this seem like the same person? Does it seem like someone's sister or someone's twin or two clowns at the circus? Or
kind of, well, I'm thinking about what Kent and kind of I were saying earlier about what, not this particular image, but a couple down where it looked like somebody in the background. Not if you keep scrolling down, that one. So that to me felt like the same person, but different versions of them, the sort of interior, exterior.
Yeah.
And just that they're in a diptych makes us want to know what's, you know, we assume there's a connection between the two of some kind. So it's easier to find a connection than, and then I guess seeing a diptych, I assume there's a connection just to start.
yeah, that's the power of the diptych.
And then you're inviting the viewer to discover connections or disconnections.
I mean, sometimes when I'm developing some of them, I'll have some kind of story, or I'll be thinking about something, but it's not necessarily that I need somebody else to see the same thing. Like I've been thinking about mosaics, and I've also been thinking about true crime stories. So, and how, you know, people make selfies of themselves with these pretty apps. I find that very interesting. So thank you everyone for looking and giving me some more ideas. And my favorite thing tonight was to thinking about how one image could go into another. I'm gonna do that next.
Feels like you got a little bit of that going on already, but yeah.
I'm gonna do that tonight.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing.
Thanks for having us.
We're just at time, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. While I look for, I actually found the link to the next show and tell. Events calendar. Next month, April 4th. Looking real slow while I grab the link. All right, putting in the chat. So JM Golding is sharing her work, and her theme is cameraless photography.
Oh.
We can all run out and practice our lumen printing and bring it to the next show and tell. But yeah, sign up. There's a link, and that within that link, there's another link to sign up for the if you want to present. So you have time to think about it. But you know, anyone who would be interested, it's open to all. Really free. Anything else you want to bring up, Vince? Okay. I think that's it from me. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Great.
Great to see you.